Hello everyone, you guys see this plaque? This plaque was being gifted to me by Riot for participating in the alpha test, the closed alpha test of Valorant in March 17th to 18th, 2020. That was 2082 days ago, which means, because I calculated that I played Valorant for over 10,000 hours. Like, I don't even know exactly how much, but it's definitely above 10,000 hours. And this is the first time ever in the past almost 6 years that I'm gonna be playing it less. Since the beginning of the game, I love playing ranked, and because I'm an educational streamer, and when I do create educational content, I'm putting my own educational content into my own practice in ranked. And I feel like that's something that many people connected with because they seen me do myself what I preach. But unfortunately, for the past months, that has been changing. I was changing my own behavior in ranked from what I typically preach because I felt I'm being forced into a corner with no exit. In this video, I would like to discuss 3 aspects of Valorant that are making me slowly and quietly quit playing Valorant ranked. Those 3 things are gonna be toxicity, agent and map design, and matchmaking. I think the shortest topic will be toxicity, so I'm gonna start with it. I'm aware, and everyone is probably aware, that we cannot get rid of toxicity completely, because for someone to be punished for toxicity, he has to be toxic in the first place, so it needs to happen. Like, that's just logical thing. And I'm aware that even if you would change all the players' behavior, like, there's still something gonna be there. So I don't expect Valorant to somehow reinvent the human psyche and get rid of completely the toxic players from ranked. That is just impossible. But the problem is that for the past 6 years, even though it was getting a little bit better when it comes to Riot's handling the toxicity overall, they allowed it to fester for too long. I still think the punishment for toxic players is just not enough. I think the punishments that they're getting is not severe enough, and it feels like a slap on a wrist for a player that is behaving like an absolute ass, straight up racist, or send death threats, sabotages the game, and so on. Like, when you watch my stream, 95% of the games, and I'm not kidding, 95% of my games will have incredible toxicity. I don't count only my team. It's either happening on my team or the opponent's team. In 50% of the games, someone is sabotaging the game by giving away positions in all chat, which destroys the game anyway. Like, what's the purpose of even all chat? There's literally no reason to have all chat in this game, and it only allows toxicity to fester, sabotage to happen. And I feel like those penalties that are being given for this kind of behavior means nothing. Player just swaps to another account and plays like nothing happened. There's no IP or hardware-wide suspensions, not even bans, just suspensions for the player to not be able to play on the same PC on a different account. And I feel like that should be happening. I am aware that maybe there are some siblings in some houses that play on one PC. Well, then maybe we should collectively learn as a family to not be a fucking asshole in the game, you know? Like, the toxicity that I'm encountering in the game is ruining my experience to such a level that I have been turning off my voice comms lately in ranked. I typically am very vocal in games. I try to try hard, which people also very much dislike because they feel like, oh, just let me play. It's just a ranked game. Why do you care? It's not VCT. Like, literally, those are all quotes. And people don't want to play the game like it's supposed to be being played when someone is trying to take control of the game, IGL, or even just try to communicate in a normal manner, like play on my contact. Like, people don't know what contact is, so what I expect. Anyway, my point is, the toxicity was festering in the community, and it broke the point. It like went over the hill, or like it crested over that wall of water, crested over, and it's now impossible to stop. It's gonna take years for Riot, even if they start today with bigger punishments and better penalties for toxicity, to turn the tide. It's so bad in Europe, at least. I don't know about North America because I don't play it there, but in Europe, it's so hard to play the game without being affected by absolute assholes in this game that is, I can't even imagine what the female players are dealing with, or transgender people, or people who just have a different kind of voice or accent. It's horrible. I also feel like I am making this up because I don't know if this is true, okay? But I think that the American developers of Valorant, they don't really understand the culture that we have in Europe, and also that is in Pacific, because Pacific is very similar to Europe. There's a lot of fragmented countries that have very vastly different cultures with completely different languages. In Europe, we have 26 official languages, and all of them are being used and ranked, by the way. And people just don't understand it. They have inherent animosity built in from our history, because unfortunately in Europe, no one likes the French. Polish don't like the Germans. Germans don't like the Spanish. Spanish don't like the French. Well, I mentioned it already. Like, those are all stereotypes that are being, again, cultivated in the ranked system. And because of the servers are even being named with countries in their mind, they even make that process even better for the haters. How many times you play on Warsaw and people are like, why are you playing here if you're not Polish? If you play on Paris, why are you playing here if you're not French? Why are you playing in Frankfurt if you're not German? That actually never happened, by the way. Just out of curiosity, like if you're wondering. But that the Frankfurt thing is like, everyone just treats Frankfurt like it's some kind of international waters. But every single other server is somehow full of xenophobia if you're not from that particular country. It's horrendous. Playing in Europe is almost impossible if you expect any kind of human decency. And the bar is very low. The only thing that I would require the player to do is not be toxic, play the game like they want to win, and I don't even think they need to communicate at this point. Like, I just want them to not be toxic and just try not to troll the game. The bar is so low that it's making me mad that I have to even think and say this out loud. And I really beg Riot, you need to do something like a Project Health that you did for League of Legends a few months ago. In League of Legends, there was a big announcement that they're gonna like reinvent how they will treat toxicity. And it's an old game, guys. That game came out like what, 12, 13, 14 years? It took them a lot of time to actually now try to battle the toxicity in a better way. They have Drew Levin, who is an absolute GOAT. By the way, I love that guy. Can we clone him and get him to Valorant? Because we need that person. We need a spokesperson that is gonna be just handling out people's behavior in the spotlight, punishing them for their behavior, and expose the toxicity. That's what we need currently in Valorant. Now, the second thing I would like to discuss is agent balance and map design. I know there are two different topics, but I will gonna try to connect them somehow for easy conversation. Agent design and balance is a big topic that will probably be like few hours of content altogether, but I'm gonna focus on one thing, because that's an embodiment of what is currently not going well, in my opinion, in Valorant. Patch 11.08, in my opinion, exposed a lot of what is currently wrong in the direction of Valorant's design. I'm not sure if you guys, if you play a lot of ranked, you probably notice yourself. Most of the players that play ranked are gonna be playing Reyna, Jett, Chamber, and Clove. We know that. I voiced my opinion about Reyna destroying the experience of the game since she was introduced to the game, and I still think that she should just be deleted. She just doesn't fit the game. If you don't want to delete her, she should be disabled till she gets a rework. She just destroys the experience of playing ranked. But the problem with 11.08 is that it changes the way that you need to play initiators. Playing an initiator in this game is very demanding when you play with random players. You have to be on top of your game when it comes to how you use your utility, but you have to be on top of your game when it comes to how to communicate that, because people need to understand how you use that utility. But then, even if you do those two things correctly, the third thing is going to be the most important. Do your players even understand what you are telling them? If they don't understand, then your entire job is difficult to do, and almost even impossible to do properly. From the beginning of the game, my first main was Sova, because I love the aspect of being a support player. That was my role when I was playing in teams in Counter-Strike 1.5, 1.6 and Source. I loved being the support. I loved being the guy that helps others in getting the kills, throw the grenades, be the guy that trades that guy who tries to get the entry, and so on. But in Valorant, I felt like that's gonna be even better, because now I can also focus on showing my playstyle and my overall like game sense and setups and creating lineups. It was so creative. I kind of lost my train of thought, but the point is, I love playing Sova because it was creative, but also fit my playstyle. Consecutively, for the past years, those agents were getting nerfed, while the agents who are aggressive and self-sufficient were getting buffed. That's the reality. Even though the release of Raze she was broken, she got nerfed, that doesn't really matter much, because she's still in a very playable state, and a lot of her utility, all of it utility, is actually damage, helps to get kills, and helps you sustain yourself, because you can be more aggressive and then correct your mistakes with the satchels. Jett, we all know how that is, right? It doesn't matter how many nerfs you throw at that character, is inherently broken. Like, that's just how it is. And then you have Reyna, who was being buffed with every single change. And if you mention in the comments that she was nerfed because she got 4 orbs in the first release and then she got 2, that means you're an idiot who doesn't understand how the game is. That patch that allowed her to have 2 orbs instead of 4, but introduced the assist system, was a straight up buff. Reyna was consistently buffed over the course of the game, and she is the most popular agent across the entire game on all ranks. I'm not saying that she's particularly the most picked agent on a particular rank, but in the entire game, when you sum up all the ranks, she is the most picked. That should tell you enough about what people like doing in this game, aka smurfing and beating on other players while not getting traded and just chaining up kills. The power fantasy of an egocentric maniac. That's what Reyna embodies. Initiators getting nerfed so hard was actually pushing more players into a direction that they didn't like. That includes me. My first main was Sova, as I mentioned before. My second main was Viper. And by the way, Viper release was absolutely unplayable, like another topic for a different video. Anyway, Viper, Breach, KO, all of those agents that I loved playing, right? To some degree also Sky, were consistently getting nerfed because of pro play. And right now we reached a moment where people who play those roles realize that they cannot really reliably play those agents in ranked because those 3 aspects that I mentioned before, so they swapped. I'm one of those players. I swapped from playing support characters into playing a character that is capable of doing everything yourself, and that is Yoru. And by the way, I started playing Yoru before he was reworked. He was already that agent for me before the rework hit. Then the rework made, and I was blown away. Because Yoru became incredibly powerful. No one listened, by the way, when I was trying to tell teams, coaches, and players, and the viewers. I mean, my viewers believed me, but overall community, no one wanted to believe that Yoru was giga fucking good on the release date of the rework. It took 2 years for pro players to actually start practicing even this character, and they still don't know how to play this character. It's hilarious. Anyway, the point is, players are shifting their own perception. It happened to me very early on, but I see this direction in other players as well. Right now, after point 11.08, and I cannot show you the stats because I don't have internet currently in my office, so I'm recording this off stream, so I cannot show it you on my stream. But I checked the stats, and after patch 11.08, we have seen a drop of 2% from the pick rate of Sova and Fate, because those are the only 2 initiators that I think should be put into the same slot, because they have the similar role and they have a very unique role, which is recon. No other initiator will completely compensate the equipment that both of those characters have. That's just how those agents are designed. Teho has only one drone, Dagger from KO doesn't deliver the same value, Sky has only one dog, and the overall info from the flashes is not certain. Fade and Sova are very similar in fashion, and Fade even has more utility than Sova. That's why she's currently better in the meta game at a pro level than Sova, in my opinion. But the thing is, when I was always looking at how many people are playing Recon initiators and ranked, I was summing up the pick rate of Sova and Fade because they play the same role. And after the patch 11.08, it went down from 16% to 14%, which means that you're never getting 2 initiators on average in any lobby. And that is sad. Those 2%, by the way, were being transferred into more chamber. People recognize that how the game is being balanced currently doesn't benefit any of the initiators, doesn't benefit the gameplay, but benefits the players who are fucking egocentric maniacs. The Reynas, the Chambers, the Jets, the Yorus as well, I fully acknowledge that, are all getting buffed because of the inherent nerf of initiators. We can play off angles even more aggressively because there's a very small chance that that off angle is gonna get punished by any utility, because players literally don't fucking use utility anymore. How many times, you just pay attention to your games, how many times you're gonna see an initiator who never used this signature? There's even a website called vtl.lol that you can look at and see in your games how much utility was being used by every player in the game. And I swear, if you go there, check your games, and you will check the initiators, they were probably gonna use less signature abilities than there were rounds. The state of the game is rough right now. So, yeah, I don't like the direction of the agent design and the agent balance, because it shifts from the game being what I loved it in the beginning, from a tactical shooter with clear intent of how the agents have to be used, into a direction where it's basically players just want to shoot and never do anything else. But players also want to shoot when they have a bigger chance at getting the kill because they use an overpowered strategy that is not present in other tactical games. You don't have in Rainbow Six or CS a character that can play on any off angle and just never get punished after he misses a shot. That is just not a mechanic that is present in other game. And that mechanic should be balanced by the fact that we have utility to fight against those off angles. That's why you should think about initiators with recon abilities as a must. But they're not a must anymore because no one wants to fucking play them. Because it's just better to be the proactive than reactive player, because reactivity doesn't guarantee that you actually win the engagement. So, all in all, the direction of the game after 11.8 creates even a worse experience in ranked than it was before. I like to say that with the current 11.08 changes, many people comment like, oh, now it's more important to use utility because you have less of it. So you need to be smarter about it. This is what you're gonna hear on social media. This is what you're gonna read on Reddit, on Twitter. And they think they are smart because it sounds smart. But the reality sounds like this. And I like doing this comparison because what they are literally saying is, oh, I like being poor because when I'm poor and I have less money, I have to be more smart with my money because I cannot really spend it. You see the problem with this? That's currently how it feels to play initiators. It's not a good feeling. And I'll tell you what, if the game doesn't feel good to play, you're not gonna play it. It's not fun. The games were supposed to be fun, but the constant changes of this direction in Valorant makes the game unfun for people who wanted to play Valorant in the first place. What it caters to is the players who just have some ego fantasies about getting kills without being punished. If you really want to play that game, why don't you play Quake? Then you can literally say that you're a better player than someone else because you're just out-fragging them and outplaying them by pure skill. Valorant and CS is about more than just one player being better than the other. It's about how you play as a team, how you utilize the tools that you have at your disposal to make sure that you can get an advantage. Right now, we're being scrapped out of those tools, and it just feels way worse. Now, I'm gonna briefly mention the map design because I don't want to harp too much on it, but I just want to explain why I think it's important in the context of what I explained when it comes to the agent balance and design. Most of the maps in Valorant are choke point simulators. What I mean by that is that you are required to go through a very narrow choke point to enter to your win condition, which is like planting the spike. Not many maps have more open space that allows you to be a little bit more creative when it comes to how you approach the game, but also doesn't require you to play a mobility duelist, a space creator, because otherwise you're not able to go to a site. Like, you cannot really play Ascent without a mobility duelist. You cannot really play a Sunset or Corrode without a mobility duelist. That is just not possible. You have to get that, otherwise your composition is just not valid at a pro level, or even in ranked, because you will have to rely on punishing overpeaks from the defenders. If the defenders don't overpeak, can do shit, right? And when you think about maps like Breeze, when you have the space to work with that, you are not required to play a duelist that creates space. On Icebox, we have seen even at a pro level compositions that didn't have a duelist and they were doing fine. I'm not saying, by the way, that Icebox is a good map. I definitely think that needs to be a rework on the B side and to give it more space, and the mid area needs to be completely changed. Adding the kitchen window was also a mistake that I called out day one. Anyway, I digress. The point is, because the maps are choke point simulators, you need more utility to allow yourself to go through that choke point. Right now, again, we're going into a direction that has small amount of utility, and because of that, the game slows down. When the game slows down, it's becoming less fun. And we're gonna see that. I'm gonna make a prediction right here. If there will be no big changes, overhauls to the agent design and balance before the next VCT season starts, and I can guarantee there will be none because there's a winter break right now and the season starts in January, so I don't think there's gonna be happening anything. We're gonna see a season of VCT that is gonna be the most boring to watch, because there's gonna be two scenarios at most happening in every single round in VCT. We're gonna have either a team do a full execute with 5 people, or maybe 4 and a 1 split into one direction of the map in the first seconds. Because they don't have a lot of utility, they will use that utility, capitalize on it, and either try to brute force their way through the choke point, or they will get stopped at that choke point and the round is decided already. The other scenario will be, we're gonna have very, very, very late defaulting. Because the timers are longer, the game is gonna be extended. So essentially, think about it this way. Most teams should be playing like Fnatic, because they're forced to right now, not because it's their playstyle. And if they're gonna be forced like that, it's not gonna be efficient, it's gonna be very boring as well. And we're gonna end up with last second executions in many, many, many rounds. I will try to calculate it if it's gonna be on average actually longer matches in this VCT season than in previous, but we'll have to take context into account as well. But I do think that the game is gonna slow down or speed up to the extremes. It's either gonna be too fast or too slow, and there's never gonna be anything in between. And that will create a very boring environment for the spectators, but also for everyone just involved in even playing the game. So that's my prediction. I hope I'm wrong, by the way. I really do. I really do hope I'm wrong, because I hate being right about stuff that I don't like, you know? So, yeah, the map design is something I feel like we should be going into the direction of more Breeze-like maps, but I know no one likes that, because the community just likes easy maps with not a lot of elevation and just easy angles that they can just hold to get an M1 kill and TP out. you know? That's what people like. They don't like complicated open maps because they require you actually to use your brain. Now let's talk about the last thing, which is ranked and matchmaking. Let me start with this. The biggest problem of playing ranked is the fact that there's no incentive to play it. There's literally nothing that motivates you to queue in into ranked and try to win. Because if you already reached like immortal, you're probably not good enough to be radiant. So what's the point of playing? I know this is not the majority of the population and most people are in gold and they're going to try to get a little bit better to hit plat and so on. But at the same time, the only reward for them is hitting that more shiny rank. When the reality is the more shiny rank also doesn't really matter because it's all about hidden MMR that actually dictates how the game is being match made, right? But the point is, the only thing you get for playing ranked are gun buddies. And no one gives a shit about gun buddies. Because all the gun buddies are exactly the same. I have like, I don't even know how many. I lost count. 20 of the immortal gun buddies that are exactly the same. And I have one radiant gun buddy. Well, actually two, right? Because it's for one episode you get two. I get one radiant gun buddy from the episode 1 that actually looks cooler than the next ones because it doesn't rotate. Right? So that's your entire motivation. That is a big problem, and that's on Riot's fault. You know, that's Riot's negligence here to not reworking that system, because I'm making this shit up because I don't have the stats, but I'm guessing that ranked is the most popular mode, with maybe not when it comes to the amount of the player base, but the amount of games being played in it. So I'm thinking ranked should be a priority for Riot to actually do something about it to make sure that it's being played and well received. Currently, that is not the case. We really need prizes for ranked to be motivating people to care about it. Radiant points. Valorant points would be fucking amazing, by the way. I know it's hard to convince Riot to give out free money, but it would be great if you could earn the Valorant's currency for playing the game. Not even a lot. Just a little bit. But to be meaningful enough to actually care about winning and getting, you know, better position on the leaderboard. So, or like ranking up or whatever, I don't know. Giving skins as well for finishing at a top of your rank and so on. They don't have to be different models, just some normal recolors and so on. Just give anything to incentivize players to care about playing the game because they can win something. You cannot have a competitive environment in which in the competition that you have, there's no reward. So that's the problem. Now, the second problem is the matchmaking in general. I heavily dislike the fact, and I know I'm gonna be in the minority, but I heavily dislike the fact that we have no solo queue possible. Hear me out, but the current environment that we have the matchmaking in is just not fair. Majority of the matches are not fair. There are even extremes that are happening more often than you think, where 5 solo queue players are playing against a team of 2 duos or a duo and a trio. How on earth does the matchmaking think that that's in any way, shape or form fair? There's no way in hell that 5 solo players, even if strictly better when it comes to skill, could compete at a baseline the same way where you have people who are playing together by queuing together. When you have like a duo and a trio and you have 5 solos otherwise. That is just inherently flawed. And by the way, there's no way that the system compensates by getting you better players when you 5 solo queuers. Because it's all about having fair MMR across the entire team. Not rank, by the way. The ranks are not what dictates how the match is being made. What dictates how the match is being made is your hidden MMR that is completely different from your rank. And that's also a problem because many people abuse the system because they queue with people who have lower MMR but are within like ranks that are allowed in a duo or a trio, and because of that they artificially lower the average of the needed MMR to be in a lobby. So the more people queue together, and we know that you can trio in Ascendant, the more they can force the game to give them easier lobbies, because the other team will be compensated by, for example, a higher MMR one player and 3 other players being completely lower. If you ever wonder how on earth is it possible that in one lobby you're gonna have an immortal player and, for example, a diamond player, which should not be possible because you can't queue together, right? When the rank disparity is that big, that's the reason why. Because if one team who is queuing with like a trio or with a 2 duos will force the algorithm to match the opposing team with an average. So you're gonna have inconsistencies that absolutely make no fucking sense. Now, all of those problems would be instantly gone if there would be an option to solo queue. If you solo queue, match is fair. By default, inherently is more fair than anything else, because all of those people have their own MMR that they gained themselves, and the match is being made based on that MMR of every single player having a fair MMR. So there's no manipulation made. Also, you kinda destroy the argument for having smurfs and boosting because there's no one to boost. You're not gonna queue with someone to boost them. The only way of boosting them would be sharing an account, and that is easily they can identify that easily with using the Vanguard. And by the way, that's why I never mentioned cheaters in Valorant. I think it's fantastic. The way that Riot handles cheating overall is phenomenal. I love it. I never have, like, if I would have to make this video about any other game, any other FPS game, I would have to talk about cheaters, not in Valorant. So I'm happy that at least this is not a conversation topic. But the matchmaking, the win trading, by the way, I don't have a lot of facts about this, so I am not gonna say it out loud with opinions. But I've heard from people that I kind of trust with their opinion that there's a lot of win trading, specifically also on higher ranks like High Immortal 3 and Radiant. Now, I know that we're gonna have a disagreement about, oh, do you really want to have a solo queue or not? Because then we're gonna be, but I want to play with my friends, and that's fine. There should be a way of playing with your friends, and there should be a way of playing with solo queuers. And I feel like dividing the one leaderboard that we have that currently has 0 competitive integrity because 5 stacks play in the same leaderboard like the solo queuers, there's 0 integrity in that leaderboard. It should be separated anyway, because why would you care anyway about it, right? You can get to top 1 Radiant by playing in a 5 stack. How is that in any way, shape or form the same as you would queue into top challenger spot in League of Legends? Like, it's just weird. So at bare minimum, I would like to have it the same way that we have it in League. There's a leaderboard when you play solo or duo, but if I'm not mistaken, once you reach Masters, which is like an equivalent of Immortal in Valorant, you can only solo queue from that point, right? And then the second leaderboard would be do whatever you want. You can play solo, you can play duo, trio, stacks, and so on. So I would like to see that. Now, personally, I think it would be much better if there would be a pure solo queue leaderboard for every single rank, because those people also deserve to have fair matches, and they also deserve to not get smurfed when people are boosting people. I think that would be a better experience for every single rank. To sum it up, I'm currently gonna limit the amount of games that I play on stream when it comes to ranked. I'm gonna play maybe 2, maybe 3 games, and I'm just gonna do something else after that. I still want to be involved in Valorant. I'm still gonna be keeping up with the news, with the patches. I'm gonna still do analytical content, and I'm still gonna do content when it comes to new agents and new maps, because I feel like even though people don't like to admit it, a lot of people watch my content when it comes to new content being introduced to the game, because my analysis is spot on when it comes to the smokes, when it comes to how the maps are being played out, when it comes to like how to approach those maps, when it comes to evaluation of agents. I think I'm really on point. And people, I also think, are slowly turning their opinion about my takes and slowly realizing that I was right all along on many things. Anyway, the point is, I really hope that Riot will start fixing the game as soon as possible. If possible, yesterday. So, because I am still passionate about the game, I love the game. I think it's the best shooter I have ever played, and I love playing ranked. Or at least loved. I would like to have the same kind of emotion towards playing ranked in the future. But right now, that's not the reality, and I have to take action myself to not just feel bad. So, for the foreseeable future, till I see a change in Riot's approach to the game, I'm gonna be probably playing maximum 2-3 games of ranked on my stream, and then just swap to something else. Let me know in the comments how you feel about the game, and if anything that I said resonated with your own feelings. Bye bye.